First, let's start with this case. A large group of friends and I are planning a trip to Lake Tahoe for 3 nights later this month for a bachelor party and guys getaway, something we haven't done in over 2 years. However, in the past week, some unexpected drama has unfolded, primarily involving me. I am a 35-year-old man with a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. I've used my vacation time and booked a flight 4 months ago specifically for this trip. With 2 young children, I don't get out much these days, so I was really looking forward to a few days with my friends, where we could unwind and have some fun. The groom proposed last spring, and their wedding is scheduled for this upcoming March. Just this past week, we learned that the groom's fiancée is 3 months pregnant. Everyone in the group was initially surprised, but offered their congratulations. She will be pregnant during the wedding. Shortly after this news, the best man informed us that the groom has stopped drinking since his fiancée became pregnant. He added that while they may resume drinking in the future, the groom has decided not to drink during the bachelor party. In support of the groom, the best man requested that none of us drink during the trip either. My immediate reaction was to decline. I've already spent a significant amount of money on this trip, and I'm using future vacation time to make it happen. My previous time off was dedicated to caring for my newborn. I understand that the purpose of the trip is to celebrate the groom, but I have invested considerable time, money, and effort into it, and I want to enjoy myself. Specifically, I was looking forward to sitting at a blackjack table and having a few drinks. I made it clear that I still intended to drink, and if necessary, I would book a separate hotel room at Harvey's or Bally's. To compromise, I even offered to stay sober for 1 day and night, but that suggestion was not well received. Now the group is divided. Half of the group agrees with me, a few are indifferent, and the remaining members are siding with the groom and best man. The best man has taken the lead in criticizing me, calling me selfish and accusing me of being a poor friend. Am I wrong for wanting to enjoy the trip in the way I had originally planned? Let's start judging. I'm going to say you're not in the wrong because this was sprung. Sprang? Springed? None of them look right to me. On you after you had already booked everything. You might not have gone to the whole thing if you had known. Also, maybe it's cultural, but here being teetotal would be considered a personal choice that you don't put on other people, especially in a setting like a casino where having a drink is completely acceptable. You're not in the wrong in my book. I don't understand why people cannot be happy unless everyone is doing, acting, thinking identical to them. Furthermore, it's a bachelor party. The bachelor himself should be telling everybody to handle it however they want. The only exception to this is if the groom is in recovery from alcoholism, as I would not want to jeopardize his sobriety. I am trying really hard to be on the groom's side here. But here's what I predict. Grooms are going to be kvetching about how low energy everyone is, that the evening doesn't go very long, and he's all pissed that no one is trying to have a good time. I also predict more than a few flasks and people hitting the john or whatever a lot more often to take a nip or 3 as the evening progresses. Ease, yes. People can have a good time without booze, but I hope that the best man is planning stuff that doesn't go hand in hand with having a drink. Which is to say, clubs, strip clubs, gambling are all likely out. Anything cigar-related is probably out as well, which seems pretty limiting in Tahoe in terms of other stuff to do. I've never been to Lake Tahoe, but I always assumed it was a smaller, less flashy Las Vegas. What exactly is there to do in Lake Tahoe other than clubs, gambling, and strip clubs? Golf, I guess? That's kinda a booze-related activity. It seems like it's a bit bait and switch at the last minute to make it a booze-free party. It's all great to be sympathetic to the bride and all, we're all in this together and all that. But, well, sorry, but there are times, like say dinner, where if I'm on a trip and out and about, I'm going to have a drink. And it would be one thing if it were just the bachelor party evening itself. It's not such a hardship to go booze-free for an evening. But to expect people their entire vacation at the last minute at Lake Tahoe to not have a single drink, well, why should everyone else pay for the groom and bride's sin of premarital sex? You're not in the wrong. Next up, he gave me the dog as a birthday gift. At the time, the dog was a puppy, and now he is almost a year old. My former partner was unfaithful, so I moved out. When I left, I took the dog with me because he never walked or fed him, and I was the one who paid for all of the vaccinations and medical expenses. Despite this, he continues to post on social media accusing me of stealing his dog. Now, he is threatening to break in and take the dog if I don't return him. This dog means everything to me, and I don't know what to do. Edit. I would like to add that the dog has special needs that were not initially apparent. We were aware that he was blind in one eye because his mother accidentally stepped on him shortly after he was born. However, we later discovered that he also has brain damage. While he can run, play, and follow simple commands like most large breed dogs, he constantly feels dehydrated. He cannot be left unsupervised outside because he will drink from every puddle until it is dry, and even consume the surrounding mud. I learned this after purchasing an automatic refilling water bowl for him. That night, he drank so much water that he had a seizure and almost drowned himself. He will even open a closed toilet lid with his snout to drink the water. He requires constant supervision and care, and I do not believe my former partner would be capable of providing the necessary level of care if we attempted to share custody. Let's start judging. Post the vet bills and ask if it's his dog. Why don't you pay for anything? On a serious note, if your dog isn't chipped, get it chipped with your name and address and phone number. If this is the U.S., most states also require you to register your dog with the town. Those two things will help you if he does try and break in to take the dog. You can also file a restraining order against him for threatening you about breaking in. Keep documentation of everything. File a police report for his threats. Your name is on all the paperwork. This doesn't belong in this Reddit, but more one on relationship advice. So first, you gather all your paperwork showing you paid for the dog's bills. Second, get the dog microchipped. Third, consider going somewhere, sending the dog somewhere that your ex won't be able to find you, the dog, for a little while. Fourth, if he threatened in writing that he would break in, share that information with the police. Finally, consider cameras or other security measures. I'd suggest just ignoring his social media stuff for now, but taking screenshots of it. You could sue him for slander at some point, but I think the less you engage with him, the better. Get your evidence together, get your dog to a safe location, make sure you are safe, and don't engage with him. Next up, 2 weeks ago, I, 27-year-old male, along with 2 other friends, went on our annual week-long trip to our mutual friend Alex's cottage. For years, one of our longest-running jokes was that I should bring my 46-foot saltwater fishing boat to the lake. This year, after checking the lake's policies, we decided to make it happen. To cover the costs, we all split the expenses for both the permit and the marina fees. The first 4 days of fishing and boating went smoothly. However, the 5th day was a different story. The trouble began during a fishing session in the same bay as Alex's cottage. After using my fish finder, we discovered an ideal spot on the opposite side of the bay. About an hour into our time there, a woman, appearing to be in her 20s or 30s, kayaked across the bay toward us. When she arrived, she asked to speak to the owner of the boat. I introduced myself, and she immediately began complaining that my boat was not allowed on the lake. In response, I pointed to the lake permit displayed on the windscreen and politely asked her to leave and stop disturbing us. This enraged her, and she began shouting and using inappropriate language. For safety reasons, Alex started recording her behavior in case she did something harmful. This only escalated the situation, as she attempted to pull up our fishing and anchor lines. In the process, she broke my fishing rod, which was worth $3,000. At that point, her attitude shifted entirely, and she started pleading with us not to call the authorities. She offered to replace the broken rod and even pay for next year's permit as compensation. Despite her offer, I declined and used my marine radio to call the police for assistance right in front of her. As a result, she was fined for angler harassment and arrested for felony destruction of property. 2 days after the incident, Alex and his parents were visited by the woman's mother. According to Alex, she was very upset and accused us of being in the wrong for getting her daughter arrested. She argued that we should have accepted her daughter's apology and offer to make amends. Looking back, I feel conflicted. While I believe my actions were justified, I also recognize that her offer to compensate us was sincere. Now, I'm wondering if what I did might have been too harsh and could be seen as seeking revenge rather than resolution. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. There is no reason to believe a woman harassing you to pay you back what she broke. Also, her mom is witness intimidating, and I think you should call the cop on her too, for giggles. You're not in the wrong. Of all of the situations similar to this that I have been in, the times that I did not call the police came back to bite me in the butt. It sucks that she got charges and fines. Maybe next time she will think twice before being a terror. The way the daughter acted, and then how the parents acted towards you, would have only solidified my confidence in that calling the police was the right action. It's clear that the daughter never faced consequences from the parents, and therefore grew up entitled and not thinking she should have to deal with the consequences of her actions. You're not in the wrong. Next up, I am a 43-year-old man and my wife is 36 years old. We recently went on a 3-week caravan trip with the idea that if we enjoyed living in the caravan for that length of time, we would consider taking a longer trip around Australia. 4 days before leaving, my wife became extremely stressed and difficult to deal with, even though I handled most of the preparations for our departure. To be fair, she did plan the entire trip. From the start, we began arguing because she was constantly trying to boss me around, which made me feel more like hired help than an equal partner on the trip. When we reached her mother's place, which was along the route of our holiday, even her mother noticed something was off and asked her what was wrong. Unfortunately, the entire trip was rather unpleasant. We hardly spoke to each other, and when we did, things didn't go well because she didn't appreciate me pointing out her poor behavior. We just couldn't get along. For me, the main issue was realizing that I wasn't really considered a partner on this holiday. Instead, I felt like I was merely there to assist her. I had assumed it was a holiday for both of us, but that clearly wasn't the case. A definite warning sign for any plans involving a longer trip. Additionally, most of my suggestions were dismissed, and several key activities I had hoped to do didn't happen. As a result, I'm wondering if I am wrong for not wanting to go on the longer trip around Australia. Despite her saving for 15 months and still wanting to go, I don't want to join her because I can't handle being around her when she is constantly stressed. Holidays are supposed to be relaxing. On top of that, I'm also questioning whether I'm wrong for not wanting her to use my car to tow the caravan around Australia. It's a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle. Although it's her caravan, she purchased it without a towing vehicle. I had to sell a car I loved to buy one capable of towing the caravan. While we are married, our finances are entirely separate. I might be convinced to let her take the car, but I am upset about how she acted during the trip. Now, she insists she will do the longer trip with or without me, which I respect, but she still needs my car to make it happen. To clarify, the only reason I am refusing to go on the trip is because of how difficult she becomes when traveling. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Don't go. Tell her you did not enjoy the first trip, and she was not a pleasant person to travel with. She can get as mad as she wants, but until she works on her attitude, just don't go. You're not in the wrong. Totally makes sense. You wouldn't be thrilled to use your vacation time on something that reads as more an obligation rather than something you're looking forward. It sounds like when you brought up your concerns about her behavior/attitude, it wasn't well received, and your feelings weren't heard, which is extremely frustrating and demoralizing. Do you think there is a better time to discuss your concerns? i.e., now that you are between trips? Is her behavior unique to this trip, or is it more of a chronic issue? Just based on the above, and giving benefit of the doubt, it sounds like she may get a bit of tunnel vision when she's focused and stressed, and that doesn't give much room for you to address your feelings' concerns. If it is more circumstantial, I would bring it up during a low-stress, low-distraction moment and come at it from a place of concern rather than accusatory. You're in the wrong. You sound lazy. Your wife did all the planning for your trip. Did you even do anything constructive to help plan? Or did you leave her to do all of the planning on her own then randomly decide you wanted to do some stuff once you'd set off, ruining the schedule, her plan, and money she'd spent. Then you did most of the getting ready to leave stuff. What on earth does that mean? Why was she stressed? What was she being hard to deal with about? I think you're telling a very one-sided story here, missing a lot of information on purpose.